Hi, survivors. Welcome to live chat. Feel free to ask away. This is going to be recorded so you guys can continue commenting. We're going to talk about the mental illnesses, why it's important for us to heal, and anything you guys would like to talk about. Just feel free to chat away. Some of us need to kind of understand what happened, and that's going to help us in our healing journey. So it gets really confusing, all the different types of personality disorders, mental illness. And mental illness is usually over time really starts to affect the person's life, their ability to hold jobs. And so a personality disorder, disorders are more consistent, but does our narcissist get worse over time? They, uh, there's so many different research out there. So a lot of conflicting information. It's also real confusing with the comorbidities to see exactly what somebody has. But there are certain um, telltale signs that kind of let you know that at least something's not right. So we have to be careful not to just give our person a diagnosis. We have to realize we're not clinicians, but we can understand if the relationship is toxic or not. And I've been watching all these different videos, reading a bunch of things, and you just see the way people interact. Also within the elementary school, the way the kids interact, because our narcissist is in that childlike state. And I was watching something, it was, I think it was a fake story, but it really got you to understand certain things. It was this husband and wife, and they had an open relationship and they had agreements. So things are healthy when you agree to things. Those are the certain boundaries. It's not necessarily something I would do, but people who can agree to things, it's healthy in a way. So they go through this thing. She comes home, he's cheating on her because they didn't discuss it. He thought she was out of town, but in the thing, they started like arguing. Instantly, she moved the lover in, he moved his lover in, and kind of like when people are hurt, it was the revenge. The things they were saying to each other were very spiteful. And in the video, it was like, we love each other, but we're saying such hurtful things. A lot of times, the narcissist is usually the one to initiate it, and we react to that hurt. They're reacting to a hurt we didn't cause. I also talk about the Mandela effect, where memories are kind of off. We just kind of expect it to be a certain way, and we put it into our mind as such, like Fruit Loops. We think it should be Fruit, so our mind just puts it in. There's a lot of confusion on what two stories are sometimes. And feel free to chat away. Good to have you guys join me. But with the holidays coming up, we have to make sure our mental health is where it needs to be. We need to be strong. Uh, really take care of your mental health. If something isn't healthy for you, it's okay not to go to some of these things. Um, Amount of exposure, sometimes it gets hard because we want to see certain family members, but other family members are really difficult. Also during the holidays, narcissist is going to get more stressed out. It might bring back memories of their childhood. There's so many triggers within the narcissist, and it's hard to understand, but I see it with the kids, because that's kind of the emotional state of the narcissist, the way that they gravitate towards negativity. They gravitate with my first one. He focused on the negative instead of enjoying the positive, and their energy just they're energy suckers, where they're just going to take from you. So the different kinds of mental illnesses, a lot of them, like sociopath, psychopath, uh, there's so many that lack the empathy, and with this world changing where people are entitled and there's also so much lying and deceit, we're also victims of whether it's political lying, uh, to where we don't know who we should trust. All these scams that are out there. I don't know what's going on with Bitcoin. There's something going on with Bitcoin, talking about like the biggest scam ever. Um, and that was what, a day or two ago. But we don't know who to trust. And when we get into a new relationship, we have to really be mentally healthy ourselves, because many of us have gone through CPTSD, also depression, anxiety. Uh, we're going to have triggers. Somebody's going to say something a certain way. So we have to be strong enough so we don't hurt to get the snowball of destruction going. So prepare yourself. It's okay to block people, but the different kinds of mental illness, some of it's genetic, some of it is a product of the environment. Some can happen later on in life, but it can be life changing. Sometimes a lot of us are like, was I not good enough? So I'm going to tell you, you were good enough. The narcissist, their mind thinks certain ways. Also, people with low self-esteem. So I had this one guy friend or boyfriend. I kind of dated a couple times, but he had said he was sick. So I was being sweet and I brought something and just left it on his porch. Kind of rang the doorbell and left. I knew I was sick and it was just, something sweet. And I was like 16 or 17, but he opens the door and I'm like, oh, I thought you weren't home. Or I thought you were going to be sleeping or something like that. Hold on, let me reword it. What happened is I made him something. He told me he was sick. We were supposed to see each other. And sorry, I'm flashes of two different stories I want to tell you. So he's sick and opens the door, dressed nicely, and goes back inside. And normally you would get a response or something. Turns out he was, with a different girl, his previous girlfriend. And it was early in our relationship, so it wasn't like we were committed or anything like that. That's the last time I saw him. We ended up being friends because, and that's the thing, like, can we be friends with these people? I never dated him again. But you get the Hoover like 30 years later, and we had talked, and he was saying that it was because he was had low self-esteem. He didn't think he was good enough for me. And, sometimes a discard or them monkey branching is because of their low self-esteem. So don't wonder if you were good enough. It kind of hurts. It's like, this is stupid. Everybody's perceptions comes from within them. And that's a lot of times too, when they say, this abuse isn't about you. It's not about who you are as a person. It's about their unresolved issues. And it gets difficult to get to the heart of it, because a narcissist will attack your self-esteem. And we start feeling like I'm not good enough. We try everything and we feel like we're not good enough. And it's an interesting connection. That video I watched earlier kind of summed it up. They had those two people supposedly in love, husband and wife. They're trying to bring happiness by bringing outside people in instead of dealing with their situation. Boundaries were broken, so now they act like they hate each other. And the way that they were communicating was just all tearing each other down. Hurt people. That's why our mental health is up to us. And don't get sucked down that rabbit hole. I know I had a difficult day today. Today was kind of hard for me. So what did I do today? I wasted a lot of time. I don't want you guys to do that. Just kind of scrolling through, and I don't mind doing a lot of research, but today was a brain dead day and I snapped myself out of it. I almost didn't go live today because I'm just kind of in a funk. It's snowy and dreary. Seasonal depression happens to people. So it's good to get out there in the sunlight when you can, keep active, And I don't know who's joining me, but I just want to say hello. It's good seeing you guys popping in. Feel free to let me know some of the mental illnesses that you've seen out there. Um, Also, I was seeing this one story for 45 years. This one lady kept telling the cops, like, my dad is um, killing people and putting them down this well. It's a 90-foot well. And Mahogany, what a cool name. Oh, and Shanae, Mahogany Shanae, that's beautiful. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to join in. But she kept telling the cops and other officials about all these murders, and they just didn't believe her. She's a little kid. Her school even said, "We don't get involved in family issues. You got to work it out with your family." And she's saying, my dad's causing me to, having me put dirt and leaves over these bodies as he finds them. Um, it was women with dark brown hair. It seemed to be consistent. So this person, the father, probably had an issue with some female. They were all about 20 to 30 years old, and nobody's believing her. So her sister too. This is where it gets interesting, is her sister said that didn't happen because they had cadaver dogs. They had two different cadaver dogs hit, which means they found, sniffed out human remains. And it was very ironic that it would be in those, the same area. And it's very costly to excavate, especially with the criminal scene. I'm sure they got to take extra precautions not to damage. They got to sift through things. But the sister had said that it was that the mom and dad had a miscarriage and a stillborn, and they buried that stillborn down there. So that would explain the human remains. Now, they haven't excavated yet, so it'll be really interesting on what exactly the true story is, but those two memories are different. So who do you believe? Sometimes, like I told you guys, I'm a burn victim. I shut that out. I don't remember it. No matter how much you try to get me to remember it, put fire in my face, it's not going to bring back that memory. So our body sometimes protects us from trauma. So maybe the sister doesn't remember it and is covering it up, or she's afraid she's going to get killed. The other one, there's consistency in the things that she's saying. Her memory is probably more correct, because she was, kids lie, kids do lie. But for 45 years, for it to really bother her and say how many people it is, a lot of times you have to look at facial expressions, body language. I did some research on catatonic schizophrenia, and a lot of schizophrenics can have like a flat effect. There's different things. I had a schizophrenic neighbor. You could see when she was going into one of her episodes, and she was stimulated into her schizophrenic state through radio and television. Sometimes they'll hear things over the PA that somehow they hear something and it changes into, these words. I want to do something on Sybil because she went through some horrendous abuse. And we have to be careful of the abuse we go through because it's changing our brain. So we have to fight against that, and it's going to hurt because we have to rebalance our levels of serotonin, dopamine, kind of calm down our adrenaline. A lot of us are stressed about the situation. Moving is one thing that can be high on the stress thing. Some of us are moving out of our person's life, starting over, fear of the unknown. So the purpose of this channel is for awareness, validation, somebody to ask a question that understands. We're so used to the gaslighting, the word salad, and a lot of us are very succinct in the way that we talk. Like we've been with our either ex-narc or a narcissist for so many years, and there's a disconnect that we're dealing with. I think this is John trying to pop in. John, if that's you, hey. So Mahogany, have you dealt with somebody who is narcissistic or has some mental illness? Feel free to share if you want to. You don't have to. But with the holidays coming up, I just thought it was important because I want it to be, and not everybody celebrates, but school break, there's times to reconnect with family, and the way we handle people with mental illnesses can make a difference in our safety. uh, they're different. They're different, and each one that's going to trigger them. It's all about power. That's why rape isn't a sexual act, it's a power. They Whoever does it, in that instance, has this extreme desire for power. There's something lacking within them. And it might not even be premeditated, but something will click. And it causes this intense desire to find a victim. Some are premeditated, they get a kick out of it. You've heard of people with mental illness where they're like, I shot someone. And they're like, I couldn't believe, like, it gave me a thrill. And they seek that out. So that's where your serial killers come in, is they start craving it because they enjoy it so much. It's the ultimate power. They'll say, first one might have been, I just want to see what it's like. And then they become addicted to it. A lot of narcissists, they have addictive personalities, low impulse control, and it wreaks havoc in a relationship. And one of the things that is so disheartening about narcissists is you don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know if they're like, if they didn't lie so much, it'd be easier to make decisions, because as you go through life, you're like, yeah, I misunderstood that, or I get what they're saying, or we put out compassion, like, oh, somebody died, or I get it, things come up. But it hurts us when we find out that wasn't the truth. And we feel betrayed. It's hard to trust. We start feeling, it starts messing with our self-esteem. So we have to build up our self-esteem, because the energy that we exude is going to make a huge difference in life. People are drawn to positive people. So you say your mother is a narcissist, and you've been left at home. You haven't talked to her and your sister in 3 years. I was also in a relationship with a narcissist and had 2 boys. Oh, goodness. You said you were, so I'm assuming it's over. Can you let me know how long you were with him, and how committed did you guys end up getting married? Share what you want. You don't have to share everything. But yeah, so are you doing better without talking to them? Are you really missing them? Are you sad about it? Because, yeah, sometimes, it's sad when you have a narcissistic mother. And I'm assuming, since you haven't talked to your sister, that maybe your sister is narcissistic, or maybe doesn't know how to cope with, you might, and it sounds sad, you might remind her of mom. So I don't know your relationship with your sister. And that's the thing. Sometimes too, certain little things we think like that reminds you of somebody, and we can get discarded too. You were in a relationship. Um, and it's interesting how you say he was like the devil. Yeah, sometimes the way they get so scary, violent. Mine weren't super scary or violent, but they mm, they were definitely difficult and pulled out a lot of punches. The second one was just more silent, the ghosting and all that stuff. But I'd like to know a little more of your story to help you a little bit more. But yeah, a mother should be there to um, give you a safe spot. And when you say, I know sometimes we type really quick. You said you've been left at home. Do you mean you were left home alone with your mom or you moved out? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Um, but some of us, we still long for our abuser. We miss them. How do we cope with that? We have to think, you know, what is it that we're missing? You know, it has to be two people willing to work on a relationship. And you say you were with him for 5 years. He's in jail. Like I said, a lot of narcissists do have some problems with the law and always been going back and forth. I do miss them, my mom, but I have peace. Good, good. I'm glad you added that because we need peace in life. Narcissists crave that chaos, but chaos can be destructive. I had a feeling, yeah. And um, this is what anybody with kids, I see you have too, but whoever's watching, sometimes we're like, if I just stay, for the kids, um, a narcissistic parent can create narcissistic children. And they put you down for many years. And sometimes too, and is your sister older? Is your sister older? She might be the baby child. Sometimes birth order makes a difference too, but being put down for years, you were probably the black sheep, the one that they ganged up on. So your sister was probably the golden child, and did mom treat sister much better? All different parents are different. But when they're narcissistic, they're not connecting with us. We're trying to tell them our needs, and it could be, you know, I don't know, because this is the thing when we're going through our depression and stuff, uh, we tend to be more high anxiety or depressed and not as motivated. But yours seems like your whole childhood was just terrible, and you kind of sometimes we pick what we're used to. So you were used to the chaos, and you know, uh, it's sad. Um, and I think after we go through the abuse, at first, um, we get into this relationship. It seems great because of the love bombing, or now we're addicted to them in a sense. Because of the trauma bond. And we also sometimes it like mahogany, you have this thing in the back of your head, like, I guess, that's normal. Like he's stressed, and we start using that cognitive dissonance and making up excuses, and we feel we have to try more. Once we try more, they take it for granted. They see it as a weakness. It's this never ending cycle. Sometimes we get enough relief because they back off a little bit or love bomb again. It's that intermittent reinforcement. So the longer you stay with them, the deeper it's going to be, the pain. And you had to live with your mom. Uh, it's sometimes not a choice, and yeah. You're the second child. Your sister is older. She's the golden child. See how birth order makes a difference? Your brother is the baby. He's the lost child. Yeah, a lot of times it's like, oh, I've already had so many kids. Like he's poor guy. But He's the lost child, but my mom took up for my sister and brother over me. They bullied me my whole life. Yeah, you got comparisons too. Two girls against girls, and the boy is different. Also, the baby. Usually, babies are coddled a little bit more. It's very interesting, and I think birth order for you has something to do with it too. And your brother getting lost. That's because he's the third child, last child. Um, if I'm understanding it exactly. My brother is the baby. He's the, but yeah, getting bullied. Boys aren't taught as much to, be sweet, be kind, be quiet. It's the rough and tough a lot of times. And if mom's not watching out for you, your brother and sister picked up the traits. They're like, this works. We get what we want. And something inside you, uh, kept you a little bit more um, not like that. I guess sometimes too, when we're the black sheep, we kind of feel meek, like I can't stand up, talk back because we're just going to get bullied more. Just got to sit and take it. It kind of starts lowering our self esteem. So, Mahogany, I just want to say, you are a beautiful person. Uh, you know, each one of us has something special about us. And um, is it Paislin? Is that how I say your name? Everybody's got cool names. I'm just Cindy. But so hi, good to see you, Cynthia, Cindy. And I like that name. I like that. I've never heard that. So feel free. We were just talking about Mahogany. Mahogany has two sons and was in a relationship with a narcissist for 5 years. Also came from a narcissistic home with her mom and her sister. Mahogany, is your brother narcissistic, or did you and him bond at all? It's hard being left out, having a golden child. And that's why it's really important, if you do have kids, not to compare them. Why can't you be like your sister? Why can't you be like this? Because it cuts down somebody's self-esteem. We all are individual people, and we can only do what we can do. We can encourage people. I know narcissists will, it's good to look at the positive, bring out the positive instead of focusing on the negative. And a lot of times, the narcissist will bring up the negative things, and that'll cut down your self-esteem. When your self-esteem is cut down, it's not going to motivate you. So it's really fascinating with psychology. A lot of patterns that people do, uh, it's crazy. Um, our mind is so fascinating that our word choices are affected by our past. Our desires are affected by our past. And even our fears, sometimes we don't even know because we think it's way back in the back of our head. I mentioned I was at a bar one night, and you hear this, it sounds like a gunshot. And there was a lady over by the stage. She jumped over the stage, over a couple chairs and tables. Like, she felt hard. But as soon as she heard that, and she ducked, she hid. And the others were just kind of looking around. She must have come, and I knew her. So I don't know her full background, but she was from the heart of Detroit. And I'm assuming probably heard gunshots. And when she heard that, it scared the shit out of her. And she hid. Now, it's still scary to me, but I didn't take that extreme flight. It was something like, she was fine that day, just going through her day. And little things like from our childhood will cause us to react certain ways. And your brother stayed in jail a lot, but so your brother was in jail too. Um, but I was more close to him than my sister. He's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Raised by a narcissist can easily create narcissists. So your sister and your brother, he looks up to you. And when I tell him about stuff he does not know, he loves to listen. That's because he's lost. He was the lost child, you know. He loves to listen because he's getting attention. You know, you're talking to me. So that's amazing that you do that. He also probably didn't know how to fight back, you know, and did in the beginning. So there was a special bond. And then, you know, the way the narcissists, they'll either rage or cut down or whatever it is they're doing, it's it's just easier than following protocol. You're supposed to say please and thank you. It's like they just want something, they want it now, just like the kids do. They throw fits, they pout, they hide, they throw things. Uh, Sometimes, you know, I told you guys about that one where they don't even realize what they're saying, because there was this one little girl, Bailey, where the boy was giving her a hard time calling her baby. And I told him, you can't do that. I know her name sounds really similar, but he kept calling her baby and it kept hurting her. So he's like, I'm sorry, baby. And I'm like, you're so used to saying these things that he's like, I didn't say it. And they don't comprehend. Yes, you did say it. So is that necessarily a lie? You know, based on my interpretation of that interaction, he truly didn't think he said it. So to call him a liar in that statement isn't a fair thing. But the way their minds work, we don't know what's real, what's, you know. So if it was a grown man saying it, you're like, come on, you know. And you say it really hurts. Yeah. I love my brother the most. I love my sister, but my brother has a place in my heart. I see him sometimes. And this is kind of interesting because your sister, um, how many years in between you and your sister and your brother? Your sister's older, your brother's younger. My mother put a wedge in between me and my sister. I bet. I bet. I seen her do it to my sister, turned a blind eye. My mother talks to all my enemies that hurt me. Yeah, they do that triangulation or purposely try to hurt you, or they just don't even care. They get a thrill out of it, or they just want to bitch. They play the victim and they need somebody to listen. They don't think that, you know, if I need somebody to talk to, it should be somebody connected to you. You know, yeah, I can see your family dynamics already. But uh, if I remember correctly, you said your ex and then also your brother who are narcissistic are, you know, in and out of jail, or, you know, have been in jail. And that happens a lot, whether it's drunk driving or illegal drug use. They think they can get away with anything. Um, Breaking and entering, whatever it is, they think they're invincible. Um, okay, you guys are all real. All right, so 37, 38, and 36. So that's pretty close. Okay, so I was wondering if this couple years, you know, you and your sister growing up were pretty close. Um, Same with your brother. So I didn't know if you're having arguments with your sister, and then he came along and looked up to you guys. So when you talk to your brother, uh, it seems like you said if you're talking to him, you know, he shows a level of respect, a desire to be with you. Um, and sometimes too, this is the thing, like with narcissists, it's almost like we're waiting our turn to be the victim, because during that love bombing stage, it can be really nice. And then there's waves where sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It can be draining. Paisley, feel free to join in with your story or question or comments. You don't have to, but um, yeah, mahogany. Uh, it, it, we like literally need love. We need it to survive. You know, we need food, shelter, uh, love, And we have to feel safe. Like if you don't feel safe, you're not going to get your sleep. You're going to be on edge. I think about the poor people over in Ukraine. Like the things, like there's going to be some CPTSD from that. You were abused for 8 years and took care of 2 siblings. So it was your parents too, mother, father. And was it physical or emotional or both for Paisley? Mahogany, did you have any physical abuse? Because there's, physical, sexual, and emotional, but all are damaging. All are damaging. And it cuts to your core. We can, and when we do pull ourselves up, we have some self-esteem to talk back. It doesn't work. It does not work with a narcissist. So how do we protect ourselves? You know, um, so we just kind of wait it out and they calm down, but it's unresolved issues. So not only do they have their unresolved issues from their past, there's unresolved issues with us. And this is interesting. You said you were abused for 8 years and took care of 2 siblings. So I'm assuming it's a parent, but was that at a time of a divorce? Because it's interesting that it's 8 years. So something might have happened within mom or dad. Trying to understand a little bit better about your situation. Mahogany says, OMG, yes, he knocked me out. My uncle was the city councilman and he put him in jail. Good for uncle. He used to beat me a lot. I got tired of it. Man, that's got to be frightening. Gosh, luckily your uncle, protected you and believed you. Sometimes people don't believe the victim, or what'd you do to deserve it? I've seen abuse over such little things. I mean, people get furious. And Mahogany continues, my mother and sister and brother, father used to fight a lot when we were small. Yeah, that's got to be terrifying. You should feel safe with mom and dad. Paisley says, no, my brother and sister and your sister have different dads. I have never met my dad. I don't know what led to that. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out why it was 8 years, though. Did something happen? Was it like age 10 to 18? I'm wondering if something happened when you started turning into a beautiful woman slowly. Sometimes too, you say you've never met your dad. Broken households too. It makes it hard too. There's stressors with single moms, and if they have a difficulty time coping, they're going to take it out on the kids. And Mahogany says, I didn't do anything to deserve it. Yes, and I am so glad you said that. You did not. You're born into this world. Yeah, this mother. And you continue saying, he just felt small and he was jealous. He never listened to his mother growing up. I'm talking about your kid's father. Okay. So he never listens to his mother growing up. So yeah, he felt entitled, my way or the highway. I'm not taking shit, and you don't like it, I'm gonna beat you down into submission. And that's not a way to live. You're with your life partner, and you're not safe. You can't even talk to them. You can't even do anything. You're starting to walk on eggshells. You're losing yourself. And a lot of times we try to work things out. We try to make it better, but it makes it worse. It's so crazy how the more we try, the worse it gets. And I promise you that is exactly what happens You see it with kids. I've seen it in my relationships. Um, so Paisley, you are 12. Oh, so you're going through it right now, sweetheart. You're 12 years old now, and she is 33. I was 1 when she started, and she stopped when I was 11 and left me and my brother. Um, are you in foster care or something, or uh, who's taking care of you, Paisley? And that's the thing. Like, it could be devastating, young in life, and you feel you have no way out. You're with grandma, okay? So, yeah, sometimes that's for the best. We might want the perfect mom, but if they're going to abuse us, we are better off. I was telling everybody I'm an art teacher, and I see a lot of kids that live with grandma. Sometimes as people age, is grandma safe for you? Is she taking care of you well? Because throughout the generations are changing quite a bit, and how people deal with things. Um, and I'm glad you're safe, Paisley. That's what's important. Mahogany says, I haven't been with him in 9 years. He's back and forth in jail. Then I find out um, that he's gay, but he has a new girlfriend that he's using to money on his books. Yeah, so a lot of times too, they'll just use a new supply. She's putting money on his commissary, and he's probably promising her the world, after I get out of here. But as you see, he's back and forth in jail. There's that pattern. And uh, does this girl get reported? What do you mean? Uh, um, as far as in the school system, we're required to report things. So, no, I won't say anything. But since you are 12, it's probably better to email me. And is something going on right now where you're not feeling safe? Because I know sometimes we need to talk about it, but okay. So I'm going to type out my email address, and then you can feel free to reach out to me. But yeah, it's probably better for 12-year-olds to just kind of email me a little bit. Does that sound fair, Paisley? Because we do go over some adult stuff. And you're going to be here every time you go live. Aw, I hope so. Okay. Paisley, thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to email me, and I appreciate you joining me. But we'll do a more appropriate one for you. Okay. So I won't, I understand you told me you were safe, and that's what matters. So there's my email address up there. I'm going to ask you to log out and feel free to contact me. But yeah, being a stay-at-home mom, that's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. What time zone are you in? I'm in Eastern Standard Time. So I'm trying to figure out what time works best, because I got some Pacific Coast people also in Australia, all over the place. You guys are fantastic. I work as a teacher, but I got time off coming up next week for the Christmas holiday. And I'll definitely be doing quite a bit of live for you guys. This is my fault today. Today I logged in. I didn't pre-create this. It was like a last minute thing. Okay, so you're Central Time. You are Central Time, Mahogany. As long as it's PM, you are Central Time. And I'm one time zone over from you. There's what, 4? We have, I always forget, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. That's how it goes. It's nighttime. Yep. And it's good, like sometimes on weekends we're like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and we've all been through so much that it's nice being able to just talk through our feelings. So Paisley was respectful, and I hope to hear from her by email. She's logged out. Um, but that's what's crazy, you know. Now, did you guys break up, you and your man, or was it that he's just in jail, so it's just not working? You can't see him. Um, that, that that's got to be hard to go through, especially with the two boys. How are the two boys doing? Sometimes, you know, it's hard. You know, does he have visitation with the kids? I don't really know exactly how jail goes. I know sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. Um, but it's a repeat thing. So I know right now you have some peace because he's not there. Is it a forever breakup with you guys? Because it says, you know, that you're feeling a little bit better. But when you go through these kind of abuses, you know, a lot of times we have intrusive thoughts and we have to try to control that to keep ourselves safe, so we don't increase the damage that we do, or to where we lose our life as far as living it. So Mahogany, are you enjoying life again? Are you able to focus on your kids, also focus on yourself? And okay, that's healthy. You know, you're sick of it. I don't want to see you. You don't want anything to do with him. I don't wish anything on him, so that's good. I know a lot of people are like seeking revenge, and um, I'm not like that. So I'm glad you're not like that too, because two wrongs don't make a right. That's when people get so angry, they want to lash back out, and I can understand why people feel that way. But once you do, it's not gonna make you feel better about yourself. You're, so he calls your 16-year-old son sometimes. The kids are okay. I talk to them and I put them in therapy. Good. Therapy can help. Sometimes, you know, being a mom, we want to love our kids, but sometimes they'll hold secrets from us. They might feel that, you know, they might get in trouble. So that's good that they have somebody. Also, too, somebody who can see it from uh, unbiased, you know, so something doesn't slip out like, well, that's because he's an ass. Oops, I just told my kids that, you know. Revenge, want help, it turns you to someone else. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. It might turn you into a violent or destructive person, scraping up cars with a key. And then you got to look at yourself in the mirror and, you know, uh, either I'm a bitch or I'm violent or I can't control my anger. What's wrong with me? So thank you for pointing that out. Revenge. Yeah. Um, I'm glad you're I guess, healthy enough to see that revenge isn't going to make a difference, and that kind of thinking changes you. I keep bringing up that Chinese proverb where um, your thoughts become your words become your actions. So we really got to watch our thoughts. You know, we can be self-destructive or we can be self-empowering. And it sounds like you're doing more empowerment. Um, Oh, so you have a 16-year-old. Not sure how old the other one is. Is that the older one? Trying to guess on this one. Uh, hmm. And is therapy helping them? Because I know sometimes we just need to be heard, you know, or understood because we feel so helpless. That was the worst thing I had is I felt helpless. Like, how do I make this better? And we're going over and over in our head. What do we do? And we feel so helpless because we're like, if I do this and they're going to misunderstand that. And how do I connect with them? And you try to talk to them. Um, you have an 11-year-old and 16-year-old. Which one does he talk to? Either the 16-year-old is sick of him and he talks to the 11-year-old, or he's close with the firstborn. That one's a tough call. Not sure on that one. I'll guess 16. Tell me which it is. I don't know. But I've never met him. I could usually tell a little bit better. But that could be. Does one not want to talk to him? Because if he's only talking to one, 16-year-olds too, they go about their own life too. Maybe it's the 11-year-old. The 16-year-old. See, I guessed it right. Usually, as a teacher, I should know that. You usually go with your first thoughts, usually right. So I'm sticking to my first answer. But the 16-year-old, your 11-year-old does not bother with him. And so he's only seen him a few times. Yeah. Sometimes, 16 years is a rough age too. He was in my 16-year-old life more than the 11-year-old. Okay, so yeah, there's a stronger bond. Yeah, because the firstborn, they have more time together by the time of the breakup, because the younger one was born later. 5 years difference too. And the thing too, the things that we do for our kids, we do a lot for our kids. And you see, people with some beautiful kids at home doing reckless things. That's narcissistic. You're going to drive drunk. You could kill yourself, and your kids, are either going to have a disabled or dead parent, or even just the court costs that takes away food from or money from the household. It's so self-serving for just a night of fun or something. And with the holidays coming up, there you are. Good to see you. But with the holidays coming up, there's going to be some emotions. Everybody's going to be going through different emotions about, being super excited. We just finally can start seeing each other after this pandemic, or people are going to be, high expectations that might not come through. Everybody has their own personalities, and with the high stress of the holidays, the narcissistic rage, be careful. Also, too, with walking on eggshells, it almost stifles them and encourages them to continue that relationship. So I teach other things online, and I had this one class on Helen Keller, and I'm not blaming her. She was deaf and blind, and mom coddled her. Also, she couldn't communicate. She couldn't see. She couldn't hear. It had to be super high stress, lost in this world, basically. And she got worse with her actions. So her needs, as far as trying to, she was fed, she was, I don't know, bathed or whatever, dressed, things brought to her. Here's some toys to play with. And it just got worse. And that's kind of like what could happen when we coddle our narcissists. They just, continue being destructive. But with boundaries, Anne Sullivan, encouragement, she was able to, Helen Keller is a fascinating story. Met several presidents, I believe 12 presidents. I've met -1. And how people are handled. And that narcissist is, kind of like Helen Keller without help. Just lost, doesn't know how to express things. And so, Mahogany, what are some things that are you in therapy too? I believe you said your sons were. I got different. So what's important is just realizing, are we safe or not? So, Mahogany, how are you feeling about your 16-year-old moving out in a couple years? Because that's probably going to happen. Are you real close with your kids, or did the damage from dad kind of put a barrier between you? Because sometimes narcissists will try to sabotage your relationship with your own kids. That's why at court they say they'll give you exact court order to not disparage the other parent, and disparage is talk bad, try to manipulate the child into believing the other parent is bad. One thing too, you know, as we move forward, we're going to be hyper focused on red flags. Um, Red flags are super important, but we also have to give people some chance. And that's good. That's good. Is the therapy helping you? It's good to have a good therapist that specializes in narcissistic abuse, or uh, was your man diagnosed, or you can just tell. Sometimes it's like you can tell. You're like, I don't need the diagnosis, close enough, because you can see it. I mean, there are the you got your overt and covert. Some of them are hardcore, uh, and other, like, they hide so much, and we think we have this relationship with somebody, and to see how cold. I was watching another video too from a self-aware narcissist. Does the narcissist mean what they say? Because they can say some pretty hurtful things. I told you my best friend is with a vulnerable narcissist, and you got to remember, I'm not a clinician. I'm certified to teach psychology, but his rages are crazy. Um, she gave me pills, but I don't like to take them. I'm looking for another therapist. All she does is give you pills. She asks you what the yeah, and Mahogany. And you don't have to tell me what the diagnosis, but was there even a diagnosis connected to the pills? Because, and you don't have to tell me if you're uncomfortable, but like depression, anxiety, sometimes they just numb the pain. They don't deal with the core issue. So I'm proud of you for, if you don't like it, uh, to research it more. Like somebody with schizophrenia, they need the medication. They're not going to work through their issues. It's their brain. So they do need their medication. But, you know, uh, dealing with the issues, if it's, certain severities, it all varies. But I used to think that medication was all BS. Um, like some people really do need it, others don't. So make sure I don't like how quickly, they're giving people medications. Anxiety and depression, I don't like how it makes me feel. I'm taking some good pills I find online for emotional balance and stress. Sometimes certain things, St. John's wort is supposed to increase things. Maybe some melatonin at night to help us sleep. I'm not a doctor. These are over the counter things, but do your own, make sure that you can take it if you're on any other medications or have any allergies. But a lot of the pills can kind of make you feel like a zombie or catatonic. And you do take St. John's wort. I keep forgetting that's out there. Um, they do help you. Actually, I need to. We're gonna, huh? I need to. I need to go buy some again. I used to take them probably 20 years ago, and I was in a better time in life too. So it's like, am I feeling better? Because I'm feeling better just in life. That's the best pills out there. Okay. See, I told you I know what I'm talking about. And yeah, like I said, just make sure it's safe for whoever's watching this to take. But I know a lot of people swear by it. Um, sunlight. There's different things we can do. to increase what we're missing. They talk about that runner's high. Some people get addicted and they start feeling like their blood pumping again. And some people get addicted to running. But the point of that statement is just some exercise. Some exercise will make you feel better. Whether it's just a walk through the woods, it doesn't have to be like hardcore, but just moving around. Objects in motion stay in motion. And I watched something too on Einstein. He, uh, Albert Einstein, he would fall asleep, sleep 10 hours, wake up, have um, eggs and chai tea or tea. No, just tea, eggs and tea. And then he'd walk to work, and then he'd work for a couple hours, come back. And I think he took a nap at 3 o'clock and got back to work. And sometimes, get the rest you need. They say we need 8 hours. I just slept. I went to bed last night. Can't remember. Somewhere around between 10 and midnight. Can't remember. Woke up at 8 and let my dog out. And I'm like, well, it's a weekend. I've been pretty stressed. And so I go back to bed. I slept till 3 p.m. That's like, I don't even know, 15, 16, 17, 18 hours. But I couldn't believe the feeling it gave me. So amazing. I'm going to start exercising again. I had lost 100 pounds and kept gaining it back because I was falling in depression. Congratulations on the weight loss. Yeah, depression. We make poor food choices, emotional comfort foods. So, uh, yeah, and it's 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 amazing and reassuring that you can lose the weight. And I'm glad you brought that up because you know I had a friend. This is the one that's with that narcissistic man. She um she was over 600 pounds. Like she was heavy in high school, probably 280, 300 pounds, like 5'8". So she was pretty heavy, not just a chunky girl. And thyroid issues. Yeah, that'll mess you up. My brother had thyroid issues and he lost quite a bit of weight once they got him balanced. Um, are you on medication for your thyroid? And I think there's two different kinds. Maybe one makes you gain weight. Does one make you lose weight, high or low? Um, but yeah, I know thyroid can definitely uh, cause some problems. And that's why we got to keep our body in balance. But knowing that you lost 100 pounds um, shows that it's possible again. And, you know, when we get depressed, we have to kind of counterbalance that with things that maybe we're proud of with ourselves or keep our house clean. Because, like I say, objects in motion stay in motion. So if our house is clean, it's something uplifting. It feels more spacious when it's clean. Um, it just feels more comfortable. And be careful. Like sometimes too, when we get depressed, we might start hoarding, where our objects become our comfort. Um, it just starts going into a spiral, and then that spiral eventually will bring us down. Just like I had a costume business, I was very blessed with all the fabric I had, and it just got overwhelming. How much I had. I had a pretty successful costume business, sold worldwide, did some professional costumes and stuff. But I looked around and I'm like, my blessing is my curse because I had so much organization. It was overwhelming. So sometimes what we think is our blessing can become our curse. So go through your closets, whatever you don't really need or wear, get rid of the clutter. And I hate it too. I've been struggling with the basement. I've been struggling with my basement because I'm going to be moving again. And, through inheritance, I've gotten a lot of extra stuff. And some of the stuff is heavy. And yeah, I went through all my sewing stuff, got rid of a lot of it because it got to the point where I didn't want to do anymore because it was special orders that drove me insane. But yeah, we have to clean the whole house. You love to clean it, makes me happy. Yeah, once we do it, like my kitchen looks good today, and usually it looks good, but it looks really good. I did the floors, and yeah, just little things make a difference. And the one thing that's driving me crazy is I have this little setup right here, so you guys can enjoy my fireplace instead of the classroom I have for the kids. But my little corner is driving me crazy because my couch thingy that this is on used to be under there, and I'm like, there are my boots. I'm busted. I need to take my boots upstairs. But it brightens your day. It also relieves stress because you're not like, oh, I got to get to that. You know, I took my garbage out today, so I don't have to worry about doing that tomorrow. Gives us a little bit of break. Also, we got that done. We got that done. You start feeling good about yourselves. And yeah, the exercising, we have to, make it a priority to at least move around a little bit. But I was going to tell you something about, my friend who weighed so much. She went into a pretty big depression. She had abuse as a child, and step family things meshed together. You're a clean freak. You need that organization. Are you organized too? When you were young, I was cleaning while my sister and brother didn't do anything. My mother used to scream for help for cleaning, but my brother and sister did nothing. And you might be that way, because that's when it felt like mom loved you, or at least, yeah, thanks. Could clean a little better. So next time you want to try and clean it better to make mommy love you. And that could just be you. Sometimes we want the opposite. I know some people, when they're growing up, you see their rooms are horrible. Just messy little kids. And then when they grow up, they're like, I don't want to live like that. So there is hope for survivors. We have somebody else joining us. Feel free to join in. We got Mahogany Shanae. That's such a pretty name. I love certain names. You don't hear Mahogany very much. I have heard it before. I think they might have spelled it with an O. Not quite sure. Don't remember. And that's your grandmother gave you attention. Oh, so your mother hated you. This is where it's coming in. Because what about grandma? Did grandma give your sister and brother attention? Or were you the golden child for grandma? You stayed with your grandmother a lot also. That could be it. Or who? Which sister is more like, well, there's mannerisms, there's looks. I wonder. It's so weird. Your grandmother probably saw something in you that reminded her of herself, so she attached to you more. Interesting. All the different families, how they. It's almost like you know a couple details. You can almost tell. Oh, the dynamics where it came from. It's like research, and there's times you're like, that makes sense. I'm glad you had your grandmother there, but yeah, that's probably why mom had issues with you and possibly the other kids. So how old were you when you moved out? Did you move out real young? Sometimes we just got to get rid of the craziness. Isn't that weird how we want to grow up so fast, and then once we do, we see life isn't as easy as we hope. But some people grow up where this adulting is actually better than being a child. And it's kind of sad what the trauma they've gone through. She gave them attention, but I was the one that, see, you were, are you a people pleaser now? Are you a people pleaser now? Um, and it sounds like a great trait. I mean, it's great to be clean. So I'm just trying to understand. So that was, you probably put some vibes off too to grandma. Like, I appreciate you. Like, you know, she could probably sense something that unspoken, like tapped into her hero instinct that, you know, uh, you truly loved and appreciated her. And she probably didn't get that with your mom. Uh, so at least you had a little bit of a break where you felt loved. Oh, you just listened to your grandmother. Oh. So, yeah, sometimes, we're feisty little kids. And now you listen to your grandmother's advice, or you cleaned for your grandma and gave mama, well, it sounds, she always give me big hugs. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, like with your grandmother, she probably just wanted to be heard. Um, yeah, sometimes that's when we feel love. Somebody's taking the time to listen and understand me. Because if I'm just listening to you, that's not going to make you feel love. But if I'm interested, or interactive, that's going to make a difference. That's going to validate your feelings. You know, uh, and I know with uh, some narcissists how they love to ghost, or it's weird, they'll think that they communicated with you because they heard all your voicemails, they understood it, they didn't reply, and it's like, how does that help me? I'm trying to have a relationship with you, and they think everything's fine because they're like, all right, I agreed with what you said. um or so it's like a one-way conversation. So there's technically nothing wrong. You know, they agreed with what we said, or they understood it, because it's not always arguments. Sometimes they are on the same page as us, but they don't circle back. And that can be invalidating. And then you bring it up again. See if they start looking at you as like a nag. Um, you used to go to the store for your grandmother, everybody else was lazy. And in society, we're starting to do that stuff where, you know, uh, people aren't taking the time for each other. A lot of people are feeling forgotten. And I know with my grandmother, I regret it to this day. Uh, I was too scared of her dying that I kind of stayed away. And I regret it to this day. But I had, like, her husband, my grandfather, died when I was 8. And I went to church and we got free hot chocolate, and well, you leave a little tip, but we got, my dad always gave us money to tip, but we got free chocolate donuts and hot chocolate. So I wanted to go to the big the big people church instead of the kid church because I just wanted a donut. But when we went on Sunday, and my grandfather passed away on a Monday, and I remember the church service where they were saying, how they make people look alive. They do their makeup, um, rosy cheeks, things like that, all clean and dressed up and stuff. So when he said that they make people look alive after they die for the funeral home, I was scared that my grandfather was going to sit up, turn, wave, and say, "Hi, Cindy." So I was terrified. So I don't know if that's why I was so scared to see my grandmother. Now, granted, I realized afterwards that didn't happen, but there's some trauma in those kind of things. And that's awesome that you did that because, my mom right now is in a rehabilitation center. She was in ICU for like the last week. She has COVID, gastrointestinal bleed. Her blood pressure wasn't able to be regulated. and she's a new admit. And they're not checking her potassium. That was a major thing because of the bleed and her kidney function. And that can, I believe it's a stroke or a heart attack, possibly both. But you're at risk for a heart attack. And I don't know about a stroke, but it's heart attack and possibly stroke. And they're not monitoring her until Monday. So that part wasn't stable. So, uh, she feels she's not being taken care of. And there's 4 of us kids, her kids, and we got to step up to the plate. We're working on getting it. I live like 3.5 hours away from where she is. Since she had COVID, she had to go hours away. She already lives 2 hours, but to the other side, um, because they weren't taking COVID patients. They only had a certain amount of rooms for that. So, we got to take care of the elderly. Luckily, my sister was able to take her clothes. You know, uh, it's so sweet that and that's the thing. That's kind of how relationships are. Grandma was sweet to you, and you're doing stuff for grandma. We invest in people for a reason, and it's sad when people invest and discard. And why does this happen? Sometimes the relationships just get too toxic and we have to leave. But if people appreciated each other more, it would fall into place so much easier. So, Mahogany, do you still get depressed a lot, or is your therapy helping? Because sometimes a lot of people too, some will say that the medication helps, others say, that they feel like a zombie. Um, with people who take the medication, make sure, whether you can quit cold turkey or not, or you got to wean off. Definitely talk to your doctor, because there are certain medications, Xanax, and I can't remember the other one, can be deadly if you quit cold turkey. So just be aware of that stuff. But I had a coworker who was on an antidepressant and she killed herself. So we had to make sure we got the right dose. If we're not feeling right, definitely talk to your doctor about that. And, yeah, we got to be careful on our mental health, and be our own advocate. With the kids at school, we have one kid who's really struggling. His mom died. He stays with grandma. I don't know how mom died, but I don't know where dad is. He stays with grandma, and he's uh, just off the wall, bouncing all over the place, can't focus, does his own thing, really difficult. And the different medications that they're trying, that I already see, uh, they're, some of them aren't working. He's on like the wrong medications, but some work better than the others. I have another student who, uh, his teacher brought him to art class, and she was like, he's got some new meds and he is not acting himself. He's making all these weird sounds, and um, it's interesting how our brain and the mental health of our brain causes us to do things like the Tourette's and the stutters. And um, I used to go, oh, I've been doing good lately. I get depressed only when my thyroid starts acting up. Okay. Yeah. Can you feel your thyroid acting up? You probably can. Does it make you feel crummy? I don't know what that feels like. Um, and yeah, I try to make sure that they sometimes they might think more of it's your fault. Narcissists, I don't know. You're I believe female. Like I'm, yeah. You're um, sorry. I I never know how to state things politically correct, but so being female, um, there, my sister's friend had gone in. She said, I got this like evil kind of feel, like I don't feel good, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sick or whatever, and she turned out to have uh, encephalitis. What's the other one? I always mix it up with. What's there's two I always mix up. Encephalitis is your head. It's a spinal cord one. Um, gosh, but meningitis. Maybe which one was it? Meningitis. Um, but I think it was meningitis she had. So she's trying to explain all this stuff that's going on. And she said, I had this like evil feeling, like things tingling through my body. And based on her being, a really pretty 20-year-old, it's like, oh, this is just an emotional girl. And she's, you know, uh, they didn't address what her issues were because they just thought she had some mental illness, that she was like schizophrenic, and could have been systemic. So your thyroid is causing, and sometimes too, yeah. Oh, you get hives? Huh. The feeling it gives you, the hormones be out of whack sometimes. Yeah. Okay. Um, hmm. I didn't know it. Interesting. I didn't know about hives, but yeah, I can kind of see you just feel off and out of whack. Uh, isn't that weird how we can feel like women? Sometimes we can sense when our period's coming, or um, different things. We can feel certain things are off. And yeah, definitely check your thyroid levels. How often do you have to get that checked? That's like a lifelong thing that you probably are on medication. My grandpa had that too. I think my mom did too. Does. I think so. But the thyroid affects quite a bit. And yeah, when we don't feel good, it can be depressing because we're not getting what we want to get done, or, you know, it can be overwhelming. But Mahogany, I'm going to sign off because it's almost midnight, and I will see you in one of the next lives. I've really enjoyed our time together. So feel free to always give me some topic requests on things you'd like to talk about. And I'll give you a hug from Grandma. I'm a grandma. All right. Well, you sleep well. And yeah, check that thyroid. And today's another day closer to tomorrow, where we help and heal each other one day at a time. I'll see you soon. And it's 11 o'clock almost where you are. So sleep well when you go to bed. See you soon.